I just watched Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. Is it any good? How many butter pumps will it get? Let's find out.
My baby likes
Hello, my beautiful butter babies. So let's get into Transformers: Rise of the Beasts, the 7th film in the Transformers franchise. As I said in my fresh out of the theater review, link somewhere up in here somewhere, this is a streaming movie. It's not a movie you should spend 20 bucks to go see. It's simply not worth it. And let me explain to you the main reasons why. Firstly, though, let me give a real quick, and I do mean real quick, rundown of the start of the Transformers line. Transformers is a Western name for a line of Japanese toys bought out by Hasbro in the early 80s. To market the toys, Hasbro enlisted the help of Marvel Comics to create an origin story for the toys via an ongoing Transformers comic book. Hasbro also created an animated TV show that debuted at pretty much the same time in the fall of 1984. So, any media surrounding this property, including this movie, is at its core marketed towards children, so Hasbro can continue to move toys. So fast forward 40 years and you've got a ton of Gen Xers and Gen Yers that grew up on the original shit. You've got people in their 40s and 50s who as kids had their own fleets of Autobots, Decepticons, Maximals, Predacons, Dinobots, and all the other toys in the Transformers line. So you've got legions of middle-aged fanboys and girls who watched both the animated series and the original animated movie on repeat. Just wore those VHS tapes out. So you must cater to that audience as well, because they're the ones bringing their children and grandchildren to see this movie. And herein lies the movie's main problem. How do you make a movie that kids will enjoy and their parents and grandparents will enjoy as well? A lot of movies and TV shows thread that needle expertly, but unfortunately this movie just does not. And midway through the movie, they decide to completely abandon the parents and grandparents in the audience and make this a straight up kids movie, which means we get a lot of action set pieces back to back to back. The storyline surrounding the humans, which is the storyline most adults in the audience would have an easier time connecting to, had some potential in it. Anthony Ramos and Dominique Fishback, who played Noah Diaz and Elena Wallace respectively, both had interesting individual storylines that could have been explored further. But any depth and meaning in their individual stories is completely abandoned by the third act in service to the action set pieces. Any downtime between those set pieces is brief. Just long enough to have some character exposition and hopefully set up a connection between us, the audience, and the actors on screen. Turns out it wasn't enough time. In the time we do get, we learn why both of our heroes have decided to join the fight to save the planet. Their reasons are so paper thin as to not really matter at all. Elena's reason is literally because it's something to experience. Noah's is a little bit deeper. He wants to destroy the transwarp key so Unicron can't get to Earth, which is a reason that doesn't make any sense. In fact, Unicron himself doesn't make any sense at all in this movie, and we'll get to that in a minute. And honestly, the only reason why the Autobots need the humans at all is because they're small enough to fit into places the Autobots cannot. If the Autobots could have snuck into places without being noticed on their own, they wouldn't have needed the humans at all, except for Elena, who pointed them in the direction where they needed to go, which was Peru. And while ultimately this is not a human story, but rather it's a Transformer story, it would have been so nice to dig just a little bit deeper into Noah and Elena's stories. So let's talk about Unicorn. I always want to say unicorn because I am 90% sure that that is how they actually came up with that word. They just switched the O and the R. So I'm always saying unicorn, but it's actually Unicron. See, I tried to do it again. Let's talk about Unicron. The film opens on a planet that looks a lot like Saturn, complete with asteroid rings and everything. Unicron, which is the size of a medium-sized planet, is a planet-eating entity. The reason Unicron has shown up here to this Saturn-like planet is because the Maximals, an advanced race of Cybertronians with beast modes who live on the Saturn-like planet, have created a transwarp key, which can open portals through space and time. Unicron needs this key so he can move easily and quickly through space and continue to devour planets. He sends his right-hand henchmen, Scourge and the Terracons, Girl Group, down to the planet's surface to retrieve the key. But the Maximals aren't just going to hand it right on over without a fight, and so fight they do. Ultimately, the leader of the Maximals decides to buy the others on his team just a little bit more time to escape and fight Scourge on his own. Of course, this is a losing battle and the leader dies, but the small band of Maximals board a ship and with the transwarp key in hand, or should I say, paw, escape to Earth thousands of years ago in our time. As punishment, Unicron devours the Maximal home planet. Fast forward to 1994 in Brooklyn, New York. A falcon sculpture with strange hieroglyph markings has been brought into the museum for study. Elena, who is an intern at the museum, begins to study the falcon and the glyphs on it when it begins to break apart, revealing half the transwarp key inside. The key immediately begins to send out an energy pulse that humans can't see. However, Optimus Prime sees it and assembles the Autobots. Autobots, assemble! Anyway, Scourge and the Terracons, sickening girl group, also see it and are drawn to Earth. Here's where I get confused. It's stated in the movie that Unicron can't reach Earth unless the two halves of the transwarp key are reattached to each other, opening a portal for Unicron to get to Earth. Why? Why does Unicron need this portal to get to Earth? Why couldn't he travel the same route Scourge and the Terracons traveled to get to Earth? They didn't need a portal to get to Earth, and as a matter of fact, it seems only minutes after the energy pulse was sent out, they were all on Ellis Island fighting over this damn key. Why did Unicron need a portal to get there when his goons, who started in the same exact spot he did, got to Earth in mere minutes? It doesn't make any sense. Secondly, at the end of the movie, the transwarp key is destroyed, the portal closes, and Unicron is trapped. Trapped where? Out in space somewhere? It's never explained, and since Unicron has proven to be that petty bitch, literally devouring Saturn because the Maximals got away with the key he wanted, what's to stop him from making a beeline to Earth and eating it up? It just didn't make sense. By the end of the movie, everybody's story arcs are wrapped up in a perfect little red bow. There are literally no loose ends. Even death itself has little meaning here because 2 of the only 3 good guys that are killed during the course of the movie are magically revived by the end of the movie. Probably because Mirage and Bumblebee are cash cows for the franchise and as such are needed to move those damned toys. So they couldn't stay dead. So much like an animated Saturday morning cartoon, all the problems, including death, are neatly solved by the end and it's on to the next adventure. And that's because that's what we've been told is supposed to happen in a kid's movie. People get hurt, but nobody important really dies. No real or lasting consequences for most of the characters. Everybody lives happily ever after, and it's on to the next adventure. In fact, the last scene of the movie, right before the credits roll, set up a strictly for the fanboys and girls to flood the theater aisles with a Nerd Nut sequel. So easily and effortlessly, I half expected the movie to keep going and ride that Nerd Nut wave right into the sequel. So what did I like about this movie? Honestly, the action scenes. They were great. I loved them. When I think back to the original movies with Shia LaBeouf and how the CGI in them was absolutely terrible, and how the technology has grown by leaps and bounds since the first one came out in 2007, I can't help but be impressed. In this movie, directed by Stephen Caple Jr., the action was crisp, it was as clear and as bright as 3D will allow, and I could easily make out what was happening right in front of me. And it was awesome to see. I also appreciated the acting in this movie. Everyone was great, especially one Dean Scott Vasquez, who plays Noah's little brother Chris in the movie. This kid, all of 13 years old at the time of production, steals the show every time he's on screen. He's been acting for a while now, and he's truly one to watch. The voice acting in this is incredible. There are 13 voice actors in the movie, and there isn't a one that isn't believable in their role. Lauren Velez, who I thought was Tisha Campbell in the trailer reaction I did for this movie, the link again is somewhere up here, didn't have as much to do as Noah and Chris's mother. She's in all of 2 scenes. I always enjoy watching her on screen, and it made me a little sad she was underutilized in this movie. But on the other hand, good for her for cashing a quick check. Finally, if I'm being completely honest, I too was one of those middle-aged fanboys nerd-nutting everywhere when they set up the sequel in the final moments of the film. I probably didn't nerdgasm as hard as the others, but the tip certainly dripped. Just a little. When I saw the setup, I thought, well, that should be a lot of fun for the sequel. I'm almost 100% positive this movie will do well enough to warrant that team-up fanboys and girls have been clamoring for. And it also will be a great way to start a Hasbro-verse, if there can be such a thing. So, good for them for setting up that sequel so effortlessly. So, how many butter pumps is this movie gonna get? 2. That's right, 2. Honestly, if you don't have kids you need to entertain outside of your home for a couple of hours, girl, wait for streaming. It's just not worth the ticket price to see this in theaters. This honestly is a movie you turn on at home and half watch while you do the laundry. 2 butter pumps. And now I turn it over to you, butter babies. Vocals. Have you seen Transformers: Rise of the Beasts yet? If so, what did you think? How many butter pumps would you give it? Sound off down below in the comments. I want to hear all about it. Thank you, butter babies, so very much for watching and subscribing. and I will see you in the next one. Bye!